comes to life. My guest today is making his second trip to the site. When we spoke about a year ago, his band Eclipse was about to release their first live record, Viva La Victoria, and now they're gearing up to release their ninth studio record titled Wired on October 8th. Please welcome back Erik Martensson. Welcome, Erik.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here again.
And I didn't realize it till I just said it then. Has it occurred to you, you guys are already 9 records in? Does it seem that much? You still feel like a new band.
Yeah, and well, the first record I ever made was Eclipse, but it feels like it's in another lifetime. And back then, it's more like an official demo. So I think the first 2 records, I don't really count them as Eclipse records. It's got a name, but I think that's the only thing that is the same. Yeah. So yeah, there's a reason why you can't buy them anywhere.
But when we spoke last year, like I said, you guys were about to release the live record, which was recorded on the 2019 tour for Paradigm. And Paradigm is one of those records, sort of feels like a watershed record for the band. I mean, as we spoke last time, Bleed and Scream was kind of the big turn. But Paradigm, and particularly the single, Viva La Victoria, were by far your most successful record and single. Did you feel any pressure to follow that up with Wired?
Not really. I think the worst critics in the world, or the hardest critics in the world, are the band itself. You know, we are. No one is harder to persuade on songwriting and recording. So, but I think it was important that we didn't write a song that sounded anywhere like Viva La Victoria. For me, that was super important. We shouldn't do anything even closely to it. Yeah, so that's, I think, if it wasn't a hit single, maybe we could have continued writing kind of that style. But for me, it's like, oh no, we can't do it anymore.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because for me, when a band puts out a live record, if it's done at the right time, it sort of marks a distinction that what comes after it is going to be different than what comes before it. And I really feel that way with Wired. You didn't just redo what was successful before. This feels like a new sound. I mean, were all of these songs written after that period, or were some of these holdovers?
I think everything is written. I think maybe when we had, I think I played the ballad Card and Stone at one of the last gigs we did. I think it was in Oslo in Norway. We did one gig, and I think I played like a super simple demo of that song at that period. But other than that, it's just everything is written during the pandemic and after the live record.
I think one of the things that makes Wired also a little bit different from your previous records is the overall sound. To me, the production on this record, it feels like a hard rock version of The Wall of Sound. I mean, it's a very full production. Honestly, it brings to mind something like Hysteria, just in its overall production. You talked about changing the style of the writing of the song a little bit. Did you also sort of change your production style a little for this record?
Yeah, it's kind of funny how it turned out. You can discuss and you can have these plans for how a record should be before you do it, but it never. The result is never what you planned it to be. So sometime along the way, I think this is going to be a really pop record almost. But then when I listened to it with the final mix when it was done, like, this is a proper rock and roll record. It's hard rock. It's so much energy, but somehow I had imagined that it was very much more pop than it was, and it's just kind of surprising to myself. And I'm super happy with the result. And I think the sound, the mix, the whole energy of the band is great. I think we never sounded better on a record.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's your most rock sounding record. I mean, it's those guitars are right up front. I think it gives almost a new spin to what the band does. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it feels fresh for me as well. I got the CDs and the vinyls and the cassette delivered to my house yesterday, and I realized I haven't been this excited about looking at the final product since like 20 years ago when I released when we got the first CD. I was like super excited. I think I almost feel the same way about this one.
And you've released a few singles from the record so far, and they've all gotten some really good feedback, some really strong returns on it. And it's funny because when I heard the intro to Bite the Bullet, which was the second single, I mean, immediately your mind is thinking Van Halen in the sound.
Of course.
Yeah,
the reason is because, I have the Van Halen flanger. And the Van Halen flanger signature, you got a button called, I think it's the Unchained sound, and he just pushed it, and it's just, that's the best setting of the whole pedal. You can tweak the knobs everywhere you want, but once you put that, that Unchained button in, it just sounds perfect. It sounds like Van Halen.
It makes a good tribute to Eddie.
Yeah, of course, he's the greatest. Not only as a guitarist, as a gear. I think few guitarists in the world has taken guitar playing forward in such a way. Everything from guitar style to the instruments to the amps to everything is just it's truly one of a kind.
And you talked about a lot of these songs, most of them were written during the pandemic. Did the pandemic have an effect on the timing of the record at all? I mean, was it just a matter of you guys wrote it, recorded it, and released it, or has it been done? You were just kind of waiting to see if things clear up a little bit.
Yeah, I think we kind of stick to the plan when we think about it. I think the original plan was maybe to release it maybe in the spring, like 1.5 years after Paradigm. We wanted to release records quite often because number one, it's fun, and it's number two, it's good to like keep giving new material to the fans. And but maybe postponed it until now, just a few months. Otherwise, it was accordingly to plan. But I think the whole recording and the vibe of the record really, the whole party vibe. It's maybe we just longed for, for the pandemic to be over, and this is the record we wanted to hear when the world opens up again.
And now you and Magnus Henriksson, you guys have been the core of the band from the beginning. But Wired is also the first time in a little while that your lineup has remained unchanged. And it's been a couple of years now that you guys, the four of you, have been together. When it comes to writing and recording, do you feel a little more comfortable now having played with this lineup and having had it been in place for a few years now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Philip's been with the band since 2016, and but Victor came in on 2019, so he is actually new. So he is the new guy in the band anyway. But this is the first record he actually is involved in recording, and he's been involved in writing as well.
Oh, good.
So I think so it's been like I think the whole band, yes, we have a really good time together. It's a very we're good friends, and that really reflects on the record. It's when there's a good when the vibe is good in the band, it's easy to do good stuff.
Yeah, and you were talking about how you guys put out a lot of product. I mean, usually it's every 1.5 to 2 years you have something coming out. So does it help, having somebody new come into the band that is involved in the writing? Because that's a lot of work getting enough quality songs every couple of years. So for somebody like you that handles the majority of that, does it help having other guys in the band contribute as they come in?
Absolutely. And when you meet up with someone and write together with them, if you're in the same room, if you would come to my studio and sit down, I would write a different song than I would have done all by myself, because just having a person next to you changes the way you behave and write. Just like in normal life, it's so everyone who's involved makes an impact. Even if I write songs and someone is in the room, it's like I will do something different. It impacts.
And now you guys, naturally with the pandemic, nobody's playing live. You did a live quarantine set that was included with the Viva La Victoria record last year.
Yeah.
But other than that, you've been off the road for a while. Have you been able to get together and rehearse and play the new songs from this record live, even if it's just for the four of you?
Yeah, we actually played a big festival in Belgium. Was it like just over a month ago?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a proper big rock festival. You had to be vaccinated to be able to go inside or have as it called, PCR test or what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the first show in 17 months. I was like really nervous before the gig, but once when we ran out on stage on the first song, was like, I know this is I've been longing for this a lot. And just seeing all people together in the crowd, it was so good to see that people having a good time together again.
If you guys have any ideas on when you'll be hitting the road, even if it's some short local tours through Sweden or anything like that?
We're gonna do a release party in Switzerland on the 9th of October in the middle of Europe. So that's the first gig that's coming up. But we got some Scandinavian dates coming up as well later in October, and some in Germany during the winter, and Norway as well. But so things are starting to open up here. So hopefully we'll be able to at least do more one-offs, but maybe 2022 is the year when it's finally going back to hopefully a little more normal, and we can do proper tours. And we had to cancel a festival in Tennessee that was supposed to be in October, but we couldn't get visas, working permits, because the embassy is closed.
Yeah, well, and how has it been in terms, because here in the US, I'm on the East Coast, we've seen a lot of bands hit the road. Almost every band that started touring has had to stop at some point for COVID. Somebody in the band contracted it, or someone on the crew, and then they'll get back on it. We've seen other bands, get ready to start their tours and then cancel. Over through Europe and your part of the world, how is it looking? Are there bands that are out there playing, or is it just kind of, these one-off festival sort of things?
Yeah, I think it's more the one-off shows. Maybe you play a Friday, Saturday, and that's it. I don't think there are like any proper tours going on at the moment. Not that I know of, anyway.
Yeah.
And although, of course, all the the bigger concerts, I think it's easier for small bands like us, because we can do the smaller venues, which are it's a quicker turnaround from releasing records to the actual record at actually the concert. But if you sell out stadiums, it's you need to plan that a year in advance, something like that. So I think the bigger the band you have, the worse it is.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's what we're seeing a lot of here, are bands announcing a show 2-3 weeks before the show happens, because you can move that in a smaller venue. But like I said, it's nearly impossible if you're looking at a stadium or a large arena.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was a friend of mine. I met a woman who has bought a ticket for the last, Elton John concert. Was supposed to be in October this year, but it was postponed to 2023. Was the next date.
Yeah.
Which is.
It also, too, I mean, most people probably know that you and Magnus are also involved in the band Wet with Jeff Gaudiosi. And when we spoke last year, it's funny because you were raving about the upcoming Wet record and how amazing it was and how great Jeff sounded on it. And when Retransmission came out in January, I mean, it's probably still one of the best records of the year, and it was one of the first ones to come out. I mean, what are your thoughts just on the amazing reviews that record has received so far? And when I spoke with Jeff, he's like, he doesn't ever see the band playing live just because the things you do in the studio you can't replicate on stage. But I mean, do you see that band still continuing going forward in the studio?
Absolutely. I think I love working with Jeff, and we have a good time. We're doing these records together. It's fun music to write, because the only criteria to do a Wet song is that it's a good song, and that's we don't have to reinvent the wheel in any way. because with the Eclipse, we always have it. We need to be in the forefront in some ways and have all that old school. We have so many, you can't do this, you got to do that. And but with Wet, it's more easygoing, and so it's really fun and inspiring to ride with it for Wet.
Yeah, and like I said, the reaction to Retransmission, I mean, even now starting to see as people talk about albums of the year, that's still up there. I mean, how does it feel for you to get that feedback and know that, people are just loving that record?
It's amazing. It really is amazing that I can sit down and write songs here and I think, this is a good song. And then we send it out and people, from all corners of the world who listen to this music, like really likes it. It's I don't know what to say. It's unbelievable.
Well, we've been spending some time here with Erik Martensson of Eclipse. The record is called Wired. It's out everywhere on October 8th. You can pre-order online. As he mentioned, there's actual cassettes of this. There's vinyl, there's CDs, there's digital. You guys got a little of everything going. So it's a great record. It's a fun record. As you said, it's the record you'd need coming out of just all of this. So best of luck with it. And I definitely encourage everyone to check it out.
Yeah, thank you.
And hopefully we'll be talking again soon sometime. Again, Wired, October 8th. The band is Eclipse. Erik Martensson, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you so much.